Hi, everybody. Ali Duzette here, and we have some crazy stuff that just happened right now in the stars. It's going to affect everybody on the entire planet, but especially those of us who are Geminis or Sagittariuses or who have a lot of stuff in either of those places. Um, a lot of our Tauruses and Scorpios are going to feel a little bit of a relief for the first time in 8 years. And so let's talk about what's going on because it is some really exciting stuff. We are going to see some world altering shifts because of this. And this is the guy that I want you to look at. This is Uranus, okay? His little glyph has his big ears, okay? And he is listening to divine insight that's flying to him from across the universe, okay? Uranus is like the octave up of Mercury. Okay, Uranus and Mercury have kind of similar vibes. Let's see, where's Mercury? Mercury's down here. He's remember he's the messenger of the gods, and so I think the little things there are supposed to be like his little hat, like Mercury's hat in mythology, and then over here we have Uranus. So they're little friends. And for the past 8 years, Uranus has been in Taurus. And I remember I had just really started taking astrological study pretty seriously just before Taurus entered Uranus. Well, backwards, Uranus entered Taurus. And so it's kind of fun to see that this big transit that I was looking forward to when I first really got started caring about this stuff, like it's ended today. Uranus is going to be backtracking into Taurus again in, I think November 6th through February the 3rd of 2026. If those dates sound familiar to you, they absolutely should, because that is the same time that we're going to be seeing Saturn retrograding back into Pisces and Neptune retrograding back into Pisces before they all converge. Okay, remember Saturn and Neptune are going to converge at the Aries point, 00 degrees of Aries on February the 20th. And just a few weeks before, on February the 3rd, Uranus will be entering Gemini again to stay until 2033, I think. Yeah, 8 years. Yeah, that should be right. And oh man, these slow-moving outer planets, these are the planets that really impact everybody. Um, these are the planets of fate. And so I've talked about it before, how the personal planets, the ones closest to the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the moon is not really a planet, but it's in the same zone. Even Jupiter to a degree, and Saturn is kind of like the bridge between the personal planets and the external planets like Pluto and Uranus. Um, yeah, Saturn, am I missing a guy? Neptune, there we go. Um, these really slow-moving planets are ones that they're the planets of fate. The stuff that they're up to impacts the fate of the entire world. So when stuff comes up in your chart that deals with your personal planets, that's stuff that your personal choices can change. And the stuff that is involving the outer planets, your personal choices can't always change, okay? It's sometimes just the weather, it's just how things are, and your biggest choice is to learn to get over it rather than try and fight it. And guys, I have to apologize because I tried a new lipstick color today and I hate it. Just had to say that. Guys, I'm embarrassed about it. It's okay. Okay, now, so Uranus has entered Taurus. So for the past 8 years, it's been, oh my gosh, why do I keep saying this? Uranus has been in Taurus for the past 8 years. And we expected upheavals around land, the economy, jobs, the labor force. Oh, which is making me think of some interesting thoughts that I'll share in just a minute. Um, but I think that we did definitely see that. We've seen a lot of land disputes internationally during this period. We have seen a lot of financial upheaval. And Taurus is the fixed earth sign. It's kind of the sign of like everything that kind of plods along and doesn't change that much. And Uranus is the sign of wild upheaval, surprises. It's technically associated with catastrophes. And so I think that this was a really appropriate placement for Uranus during COVID, of course, where it was this whole time, where we had massive upheavals about how we run everything that had been traditionally done a certain way. It just shook everything up. And I think a lot of us can agree a lot of it was really bad. Some of it was really good. I personally am loving restaurant delivery, which was not really possible before then for most places, and then it suddenly became super ubiquitous. These are the kinds of things that we could expect with Taurus, with Uranus and Taurus. Taurus can also deal, because it deals with land, it deals with money, it can deal with like harvests, okay, and like food stuff. And we definitely saw that, okay, in terms of like the delivery situation. But we've been in that vibe for the past 8 years. And today, let's see what time it was. 3:48 a.m. in Washington, D.C. Uranus entered Gemini. And it's going to be here again until November. Go back into Taurus for a few months, then come back in February just in time for this Aries point convergence that is going to spell some massive societal shifts for the entire planet. Very exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking. We do not choose to be scared of any of it. We choose to be excited about it and to look forward with faith and with hope and with a knowledge that as long as we're connecting with God every day and doing what we need to do every day, things are going to be fine for us. So, what does it mean to have Uranus in Gemini? That's the really big question that we need to be talking about. And one thing that I want to mention is this is the chart of the moment that Uranus has entered Gemini. And here it is conjunct Venus, okay? And I love that because Venus is considered the lesser benefic. It brings blessings wherever it is. It brings beauty and blessings. And so I love that they're together. To me, it indicates that there's going to be a lot of blessings that come out of the upheaval that we see. And over here, it's opposing the moon, which is also an interesting flavor here. What I think we're going to see is a little bit of a struggle and people not wanting some of the big changes. I think we're going to see how a lot of people reject the changes that Uranus and Gemini brings, but there's also going to be a lot of blessings with it. I think it's probably going to have a little bit of a similar vibe to, again, like the COVID type of stuff where like there's a lot of really awful stuff and it makes people very upset on all sides of the spectrum. People are all upset about each other and all of their choices that they disagree with. And there are some blessings that come out of it, like the working from home thing, like the food delivery thing, um, opening options for like online schooling and stuff like that. Even though all these things also come with problems, but it's just to say there's a lot going on and we can see the pros and cons. And so I think we're going to see a lot of resistance, but also a lot of blessings as we head into that energy. So what does it mean? The first thing that we have to understand is the nature of Gemini. So what is Gemini even up to? Okay. What does Gemini do? Gemini is associated with the twins. I used to think it was a good twin, evil twin. That is not really what it is. The idea is that rather than a good twin, evil twin, it's kind of like your hands, where they're not really like exactly identical but reversed, but it's two sides of the same coin. It's being able to see the duality in things. Um, Man, I had an astrology teacher who said that Gemini um, reminds her of how in the past, when twins were born, the parents would feel like one of them was the real child and one of them was like a fairy copy. It was like a mirror of that child from like the mirror realm or like the fairy realm. And so it's not necessarily that one is good, one is evil, but it's like one is the true one and one is like this weird copy. And like, how can you tell them apart? And so Gemini is a little bit famous for being able to see both sides of the question. It can be very vacillating and change its mind a lot. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, which is the messenger of the gods. It deals with transportation, it deals with education, learning things. People who have a lot of Gemini tend to be voracious learners and communicators. They really like talking. It can be a little bit of a gossipy sign and a little bit of a backstabbing sign. Because it sees both sides of the things. It's really engaged in, it really cares about what's going on in the neighborhood and going along with its peers, both siblings and then like peers in the neighborhood, peers in regular life. And being able to be very talkative and really involved with your peers and seeing the pros and cons of everything, it can just lead to gossipy tendencies. Gemini tends to be a very, very talkative sign. And whenever I do readings, I don't, I'm not currently open for star chart readings right now, but I do always know that if somebody has Gemini sun, Gemini moon, Gemini rising, I have to be really careful because if I don't take control, they will talk the entire time. They will pay hundreds of dollars to meet with me for an hour and talk the whole time and not hear what I have to say because they just have to talk, 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 talk. And so I always have to say, I know you just want to tell me everything, but you just should not do that. Don't do that right now. Send me an email later and I'll read it, but now is not the time to engage in the Gemini habit of talk, talk, talking. Like you paid for this and I need to be the one that is talking. Um, so those are some of the vibes of Gemini. Okay, so now that we kind of understand a little bit about Gemini, what does it mean to have the catastrophic upheaval guy show up in Gemini? Okay, what we're looking at is going to be a bunch of surprise events that trigger shifts society-wide around all of those themes. So we can kind of go down the list. Um, Gemini really deals with speed of information and communication. I would say it really is a sign that you could link to social media. Actually, I feel like Aquarius and the 11th house really deals with social media, but guess who rules that? Uranus. So Uranus in Gemini, we're looking at big shifts in social media, big shifts in how people use the internet to communicate with one another. We may be seeing some big shifts in government regulation around what people are allowed to say and not allowed to say. And this is again going to be worldwide, where every nation is going to handle this vibe a little bit differently. But I think we're going to see a much it's going to be a little bit bifurcated, where on the one hand, we're going to have people that really we're going to see a lot more freedom with social media in some areas, and we're going to see a lot more like shutting it down, like shutting down the freedom in other areas. And that can exist at the same time. Um, I'm thinking of like COVID, where some people had their speech like extremely limited. Other people were able to say all sorts of weird stuff as long as it agreed with the agenda. And I think that we're going to see the same kind of thing. Um, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. Because Gemini deals with influxes of information and being able to see the two sides of the same coin, I think we're probably going to see a lot of um, things coming to light that really impacts the way that people see the world and think about the world, like a lot of new information that may or may not be accurate. Okay, Gemini's preoccupation is, I would say, not really with accuracy, it's really with a volume. Okay, Gemini is less inclined to care about how true all their information is. They just like the information. They just want like as much information as possible. And they do care about what is true, but if they have a choice between fixating on truth or just collecting more data, they're gonna probably pick collecting more data. And so I think we're just gonna see a deluge of information showing up that is gonna be contradictory. It's gonna be confusing. Um, it's going to make us rethink a lot of what we've thought in the past and what we are planning to do going forward. And I think it's just going to be a lot. It's just going to be so much information. At the same time, it can also lead to the cutoff of information. And I've talked about this with Pluto entering Aquarius, and how with Pluto entering Aquarius, I think we're going to see um, huge shifts in technology, and we're going to see how some people have more technology, better technology, faster technology than has ever existed, and some people are going to lose their access to technology completely. I That is my forecast for the next 20 years. Let's check in the 2045 zone and see, but I'm thinking there are going to be plenty of places in the world where their access to technology has been radically removed by that time. And I think with Uranus and Gemini, we're going to see some populations have a massive increase in sheer data, the sheer volume of information. I mean, think about AI. This is all going to go into this bucket as well. It kind of goes into this, and also with Pluto and Aquarius, AI is really going to play hard with both of those players. Um, so some people are going to deal with a way influx of information. Some people are going to deal with now they don't have the internet anymore. Like, oh, okay, surprise. And I think that that's a little bit of the two sides of the coin that we may see over the next 8 years. These changes could be permanent, they could not be. It just will depend. on a lot of things that we can't necessarily know in advance. Gemini deals with transportation, but particularly with short transportation. So, um, Gemini really deals with like going to the gas station, going to the grocery store. Sagittarius is like taking the sabbatical to India, like going on a lengthy tour of Europe or something. Like so those two signs both deal with transportation, but Gemini is going to deal with the transportation that affects you every single day. It's going to affect how you go to the gas station, how you go to the grocery store. And what are we seeing right now? Big focuses on electric vehicles. Talk about how going to the gas station, what if that's not even a thing by the time Uranus is done in this sign? It's possible. I think we're going to see some big shifts in how people get places. As I'm talking about that, it's suddenly coming into my mind of the big remigration issue, where many Western nations are deciding like enough is enough. Um, if there are more foreigners in our country than there are native people to this country, like we don't even have a country, and they are starting to remigrate people who have come back to their native homes, right? And so I think that we'll probably see a lot more focus on remigration with this Uranus in Gemini, and some of it may be very shocking and surprising because that's how Uranus works. Uranus shows up by surprise, and it can be a little bit shocking. But it's not there to hurt us. It's there to reflect to us what's going on in our own souls. So if we pause and talk about the nature of Uranus and how it's been viewed over time, people have viewed it as a bit of a malefic, meaning kind of like a bad guy planet, because yeah, hold on. Oh, but she's not here right now, honey. Sorry about that. Anyway, Uranus has always been associated with negative things because it is associated with things like earthquakes and volcanoes. I read this paper about how there's not really like a specific placement that always shows up every time there's a volcanic eruption or a big natural disaster. But many, many times, like perhaps most of the time, Uranus is found within 15 degrees of either side of the IC, the very bottom of the chart during those times. So Uranus is associated with natural disasters and stuff like that. But on a personal level, it can also be associated with cataclysm, and but I don't think it has to be. I don't think it must be, Um, to me, I feel like what it really is it is reflecting what kinds of events are going on in our own soul. So if we can heal our own internal self, then when Uranus shows up and it reflects back to us who we are through the medium of surprises, it's going to show us amazing surprises that are super good and big blessings. If what's going on in our hearts is rotten and gross, when Uranus shows up in our lives to surprise us with something that's reflecting into our own souls, it's going to be negative. I hope this makes sense. It's like a big mirror for who we are on the inside, and it works through the medium of surprises. And so if you have a lot of good stuff going on, you're going to get some good surprises. If you have a lot of bad stuff going on, you're going to get a lot of bad surprises. So that's why I think historically it was associated with bad surprises because most people don't really take their own spiritual healing and spiritual, growth and I guess you could say like righteousness. Like most people don't take it that seriously. They're okay with being kind of crappy people and they don't really change until horrible stuff happens that force them to change. And that's the thing about Uranus. To the extent that it's reflecting crappy stuff into our lives, it's not there necessarily to punish us. I feel like Saturn brings it to punish us, but Uranus does not do it that way. It's really to like reflect to us what needs to change. When a lot of big shocking things are showing up in your life, it's time to say, okay, all of these things are happening one after the other. What in me is allowing this? What inside of myself do I feel like I deserve bad things? Do I feel guilty about stuff that I need to resolve? Do I feel like a bad person? Maybe I've internalized a bunch of accusations from parents in early childhood who blamed me for ruining their life or something like that. We have a lot of different stuff that can be going on in our souls that's inviting a negative reflection. And so we get to take responsibility and look inside of ourselves and say, okay, what inside of me is inviting this kind of reflection? And um, so anyway, so we can use on a personal level, we can use this transit for good, and all we have to do is be good. Like we just have to go inside of ourselves and make sure that we are conforming to the laws of the universe. I feel like the Ten Commandments are a really good shorthand for how to keep the laws of the universe, no stealing, no lying, no committing adultery, no murder, all of this kind of stuff. That is the kind of stuff that helps your soul stay in a good place. And the more you engage in all of that stuff, the more you're causing little karmic problems that are going to float out and get bigger and bigger before they boomerang back to you. And I feel like Saturn is one of those big boomerangs. But Uranus, I feel like it kind of does it in a different way. And so the more we can work on our own souls and become better people and more aligned with God and reality, the easier of a time we're going to have it when Uranus is up to whatever it's up to in the chart. And it's on an 84-year cycle. So probably, I mean, many of us we've all seen several different signs that Uranus has been through. And many of us are going to live to see several more transits through, up next will be Cancer and then up through Leo. We're going to see these things. Uranus is always up to something. And Pluto is always up to something. All the planets are always up to something. And the one constant is that they are kind of reflecting you. And so the more that you do to heal yourself, the better experience you are going to have overall, regardless of what the stars are up to. Okay, so any other thing that we need to keep an eye on for Uranus? We covered information, communication. We may see some leaps forward in communication. I feel like we've already had amazing leaps forward with communication, right? As far as like phones, texting, phone calls. We can have instantaneous communication. I think this YouTube thing, that's pretty amazing. But we may see some big leaps forward and again, some leaps backwards, depending on where in the world we are, what's going on. Um, so communication, information, technology to some extent. Um, so Gemini also deals with our interpersonal interactions with our peers, siblings in the home. And so a lot of us with prominent Gemini energy, if you have siblings, you may see a lot of surprise events involving your siblings for the next 8 years. But all of us have the siblings of the peers around us, the other people in our lives that are our peers in our regular life. And so I think over the next 8 years, we will have some shocking surprises about our peers. I think we're going to see people surprise us in ways that we didn't expect. And I like think of this a lot with again, I mentioned like the remigration issue. One thing that I didn't talk about, but I might, the big beautiful bill that just passed um, is heavily focused on remigration. And I think it's going to be really I don't know. I think we're just going to see some big shifts in interpersonal relations because of things like that, which all fall under the realm of Uranus in Gemini. Okay, where people are going to have their very strong opinions about how things are, how they should be, and then they're going to be very shocked about their neighbors and peers having very different opinions and um, it could be a little bit of a negative experience for a lot of people. And so we'll just have to keep an eye on that and remember that, um, I don't know. I mean, I think that the most important thing is to be checking in with God every day, with humility and being willing to accept that maybe our political opinions are not in alignment with God's and to, really check in with God and make sure that we're on the right track for ourselves. And I've mentioned this before that I don't think that being wrong is bad necessarily. I've written about this at length in my Facebook group. If you, I don't know, try and search for it, people ask about that post from time to time. But this idea that all of us are on our own unique journey and it's important for us to have different perspectives at different times in our lives. And it's okay. Like you may be very sure that that all of your opinions about everything in the world are correct in that moment. You might check in with God and get like a yes, I'm on the right track with everything I believe. And maybe your opinions are objectively false, like when you take a step back and view it from God's perspective, but they are right for you in that moment. Like they're necessary for right this second. And then later on, you'll receive more information that makes you change some opinions. I hope this makes sense. Um, in terms of like gospel stuff, that's why I just kind of feel like it's not really in everybody's best interests to like, all join the same religion, the true religion all at once. Like, that's not, God could make that happen, but he doesn't because it's important for people to be on their own journeys and to have their own perspectives and to like explore the different paths that they feel like it is important for them to explore for their spirit. And God is going to sort it all out in the end. And our job is to share what we feel is true appropriately as we are moved on by the Holy Spirit, and to recognize that many people are just not going to feel it, or they're not going to feel it now. And maybe they will much, much, much later. Um, and that's okay. Can we like be okay with everybody on their own journey and finding the information that they need for their very next step that might be looking backwards to you because maybe instead of just going from here to here, their journey is to go like this. All of us have different paths that we are here to walk. And to me, it's just important to recognize that. Um, okay, so final thought. I just thought that this was interesting. Wait a minute, should I share it? Oh, maybe I should. Okay, let's share my screen again. Um, okay, so this is this morning again, but let's go to my recently used zone. Okay, this is America's birthday, and I wanted to do a solar return reading for America, but I haven't done that yet. Okay. This was the big beautiful bill passage. It passed at 5:42 p.m. Washington, D.C. Okay, I thought that this was really interesting and worth mentioning that it took place right as Uranus and Venus were exact at 29 degrees of Taurus, kind of like a final like upheaval of land and money and the economy. But I don't know, some people are not going to like this, but exact Venus, there's blessings on it. And um, this is the other thing that people aren't going to like. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry for those that will not like it. Let's see. Sorry, I'm kicking the wrong charts. Here's the deal. It happened on America's Jupiter return. Okay, it did. This out here is it? It happened right when Jupiter was at 5 degrees of Cancer, which is America's natal um, Jupiter. Anytime you have a Jupiter return, it's big blessings. Okay, so I know we got a lot of haters of the big beautiful bill, but this is a chart that says there are huge blessings on it, in my opinion. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But I just thought that is too crazy that it happened like with Jupiter exact, America's Jupiter, and with Venus exact Uranus. Big upheaval in terms of land and economy and who gets to live in what land, who gets to be in what place. Okay, that's a big question of Taurus. Taurus deals with the physical earth. Who gets to stay on this patch of earth? And it just seemed like an interesting day for that to be happening. We're asking these like huge questions, throwing in one final big piece of legislation on this theme before Uranus transitions over into Gemini. And then again, we'll have to keep our eyes on it because everything is going retrograde in November and December and January, those 3 months. It's going to be like, we've been going in one direction since like February of this year about, and then it's going to feel like the pendulum swings the other way. And one thing to note when that does happen, in the fall and winter of this upcoming year, it's going to feel like the pendulum swings the other way. And depending on how you feel about things, some people are going to feel a lot of despair about that. Some people are going to feel a lot of hope about that. But the thing you have to realize is that the pendulum is going to swing back. It's going to swing back to where it is today and go much, much further. Okay. However, we are all feeling about, again, I think the remigration issue is really a thing top of mind for many people all over the entire planet. However, we feel about it, I think it's going to go like, I don't know. A lot of people are not happy about how it's going right now. It is going to be picking up speed and getting way more drastic. That is my prediction starting in February and it's not going to slow down. It will be like that for years because Neptune is a slow-moving planet. Saturn is a pretty slow-moving planet. Um, this Uranus in Gemini, these are all the planets of fate. The planets of fate are for people to return to the place of their natality. That is Aries. That's Aries. That's this Uranus leaving Taurus. It's a big call for people to go home. And we may not love that, but it is the calling that I think the entire world is going to be seeing in a very serious way. And I'm going to say to you, don't take my word for it. I would say to pray about it and pray for yourself, um, how to feel about that, you know? Um, and we can ask God for help to help us process any of our big emotions and we can ask God for more clarity on how to feel about everything, And that is one of my favorite activities to do. I like love it and hate it because very many times God is like, "You're thinking about this wrong. Pff, think about it differently." And I'm like, I don't want to think about it that way. In my personal life, so obviously I've been like very out of touch with YouTube lately, because in my personal life, my life like fell apart completely, and I've been a huge mess for months. But it like I like snapped out of it last week, and now I feel like my normal self again, which is weird. My with worse lipstick, apparently, whatever. And so so anyway, during this whole time that I was like going through this hard stuff and asking for help with God's perspective, it was just really unpleasant. And I really did not like it. But I feel like God did send me some new perspectives that, gall, were they that helpful? I don't know if I can put it that way, but like I had a really hard time. And I've had to like work through, I guess you could say, a lot of like cognitive dissonance where how I wanted things to be and how things actually are did not really line up. And I had a lot of pressure from people familiar with the situation to just like stop engaging with that and kind of just like take control of my life again, like do what I want again. And I just kept feeling like I just have to feel these feelings to the utmost. I just have to like be humble and just get through it. And like, yeah, it's like tearing me apart. And I could just do the prideful thing and assert that I know best and choose to impose my own will on my life like I have in the past. Like all of the suffering that I've been through in the past couple of months, like I opted into it. I could have just not engaged with it, not felt it, ignored it, and continued doing my life. And I chose not to. It kicked my trash. I spent many times in tears, and it was horrific. And the people that know me in real life said, like one of my good friends that I see every week, she said, "Allie, are you okay? You look like you're wilting." And I felt like I was wilting. I felt like I was dying in my soul, optionally. Like, again, it was something I was willing to experience because I thought, okay, I just have to get to the bottom of this. And the only way to get to the bottom of our feelings is to really feel them. And I feel like, the kind of work that I do at my main website, allieduzetclasses.com, like it can be a shortcut for a lot of things, but also some things you just have to suffer through them and you just have to be willing to feel them all the way. And I don't know, I feel like I felt it all the way. And suddenly I was done. Suddenly I'm done. All the stuff that bothered me for the past 6 months, like it doesn't really bother me now. And I don't know. I can't even remember why I was talking about that. Now my kids are knocking on my door. But the point is, um, we can pridefully manage a lot of our emotions and assume that our perspectives are correct when they're really not. And sometimes we need to voluntarily choose to be humble enough to really feel the trauma of all the things that we wish were true that are not true, the ways that we wish things were going and they're not. We need to feel it, feel it, feel it, and it sucks and it kicks your trash and I hate it and I like personally know how hard it can be and I've just been going through that. So anyway, check with yourself. Check with yourself if that kind of experience is something you might need to go through, because maybe it is, and I'm so sorry if it is, but you can do it. I can verify you can survive it. I survived it. We can do it. Oh, okay. I have to go. My kids are here. I love you guys so much. I hope that your day is so good. And I don't know, enjoy Uranus and Gemini. Here we are.